So welcome to, I think they call this How to Learn from a Well-Developed Internship Program. And today I've titled myself the 6 Frames to Capture Your Internship. So we're just going to share what worked for us down in Modesto, California. And before we get started, I just wanted to share a little bit of a testimony from one of our interns, as I asked him just to share a little bit of what this last year meant for him. So I'll share that with you today. He said this internship marks the 4th internship that I've been in, and by far this is the one that I've grown the most in. So there you go. That's all you need to know, right? We're the best of the other 3 that I did. Though my experience looked significantly different than my peers and fellow interns, it was such a privilege to grow in spirit and knowledge of ministry alongside them. Along with my intern directors, they were overwhelmingly there for me when my health disabled me and from a lot of aspects of my normal life in ministry. I was truly humbled by these people that God had intended me to be around in such a time that I needed mentors and colleagues. While my takeaway experience is hard to put into words or a one-line quote, I can say that I grew exponentially. I was pushed to my limits, and at the end of it all, I'm so thankful for the struggle that I endured. I might not be as strong as I used to be physically, but through this internship and the guidance of my studies, mentors, and peers, I have learned to rely on Him for my every step, sometimes more literally than spiritually. So be careful if you join this internship. God will wreck your life in the best way possible. So just how cool is to see a student be so thankful and grateful for the brutalness of what internships can be sometimes when these young people right out of high school are learning to work for the first time, and what ministry, taking the romanticism out of ministry, as the video said yesterday. I want to share another quote with you that really kind of started our internship on the right path, I think. This is from a book called Exponential by Dave and John Ferguson. It says, a gifted artist can attract a huge crowd, a charismatic speaker can create a tremendous energy, and a talented writer can sell books by the millions. But if that artist, speaker, or writer wants to see their influence grow into a movement, they first must become developers of leaders. And I think that is why Church Partnership Program is around. It's because there's a lot of people here who have said, I want to be a developer of leader. I don't want to just attract a big crowd. I want to actually make a movement in my generation and help these students who want to make a movement in their generation. And so today in this conference is all about how can we make our internships better? How can we make our church partnership programs better? And I like that we're phrasing it that way, learn from a well-developed program, or how to capture your internship, instead of like how to grow your internship. I think of a story you might have heard from the founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy. And the story goes that they were in a lot of competition with Boston Market at the time for market share and who was selling the better chicken sandwich or whatever. And so all these young executives at the company went and said, this is how we get better faster. And so Truett Cathy, who's normally a more like reserved personality, was listening to this presentation of all his, fresh out of whatever with their MBAs, talking about this is what we need to do, and to grow bigger, faster. And then all of a sudden, Truett Cathy began pounding on the conference table saying, enough, I'm tired of all this talk of growing better or bigger, faster. If we just make our product better, the customers will demand that we get bigger. If we just make our product better, the customers will demand that we get bigger. And so this little 6 ideas that I'd like to share with you is just about things that I felt like made us a really good product. The best way you can promote your intern program, the best way you can promote even your Sunday morning church service is by just offering a very quality Sunday morning service. The best thing you can do for your internship is to just offer a very quality program. And so these were 6 kind of philosophies, 6 ways that I look at my internship. Gotta stay in the camera over here. 6 ways that I looked at my internship, which I felt like added a lot of value to it and ended up growing our program. So I'll share them with you today. Let's stop for 1 minute though, and just real quick, there's only 5 of us in here. And so just introduce yourself and say what church you're from and what year your program is. So let's go ahead and start with Brad.
All right. Brad Kessler. I'm with the Alaska Ministry Network in Anchorage. And we're in our second year. We just had one student this last year. So still trying to get the ball rolling.
Cool.
I am Kyla Riley. I don't know who to look at because you guys are all. I'm Kyla Riley. I'm from Westgate Chalko, which is in Edmonds, and we are going on our second year. So we had 3 students last year, and we have like a whole bunch more that are interested in this second year. So
cool.
It's really cool.
I'm Jared McKinney, and I'm at Bethany Christian Assembly in Everett, and we're going into our 5th year. I think we've been out of 4 years.
Great. Cool.
I'm Jacob Edler from Yakima, Washington, Yakima Foursquare. We're kicking it off in the fall.
Nice.
They said last night we had 12 students signed up. Our count is 9, so more. That's cool. Yeah, we'll take it. But yeah, we're just kicking it in gear.
That's cool. And did you have an internship before that's becoming this, or is it all brand new?
No, we have a very solidified summer college internship program.
Okay.
This is our first time really taking a crack at the school year. I'm doing something special with it. So
Cool. Awesome.
I'm from Malino, Oregon, and we're pre-CPP.
Yeah.
Actually, I came with my daughter, who is at People's Church,
Uh-huh.
and I'm accompanying her, and I'm auditing the class.
Nice.
I just want to see what the CPP does look like. So
Great. Awesome. Glad to have you guys. All right. Well, the first leg a little bit about myself. So I was in One Church Modesto, church of about 400, although we have some church plants. So altogether with our family, we're probably about 700. And I inherited an internship when I was a youth pastor of just a couple kids. I found out about the church partnership program. And so 2 years ago, we launched, and we had 4 full-time interns. And I think 10 students all together, from adult learners and just kind of people who showed up out of the woodwork. We had one retired Air Force veteran who decided he wanted his bachelor's degree, and so he did the program through us, and we made it work for him, and he actually just accepted a senior pastorate through this whole process of feeling the call to ministry. And then the second year, we had 8 full-time interns and 13 students all together. And so we were pretty proud of that growth. We were excited for that growth of just really being a church of 400 people, because all of our interns came from that one main campus. And so it was successful for us. We got to keep kids who normally would have had to leave to Bible college, and they got to stay. And then also the kid who, and I'll talk about this a little later, who wasn't sure they were called to ministry. In fact, this is my first point. Look to invest, not cash out. And the idea here is sometimes you've heard of intern programs that they want an army. They want a big workforce to be able to do all of their events and setting up tables and human videos and all of this other stuff that they need an army. So we need some interns around here to be able to get some work done. And I'd say what made our program so valuable, which made so many kids come to it and sign up for it and stay for the second and even third year now, is that we considered it an investment into them. And all of our pastoral staff who worked with these interns heard from our senior leadership that this partly is your job. This is everybody's job to be training leaders. And so our intern program here is part of your job that we're investing into them. And so part of this mentality of investment was bringing in the maybe kids. And by maybe kids, I don't mean the kids who had a 1.1 GPA and they were, awful in high school and they're not really ready to jump into college. That's not going to be successful, most likely. I am talking about the kids who are saying, maybe I'm called to ministry, but I'm not really very sure, but I love Jesus. And I was a youth pastor at the time. And so I had a lot of that relationship. And if you're not the youth pastor, that's probably one of the biggest things you can do to grow your program. To have a great relationship with the youth pastor who's going to be vouching for your program every single year as you have a parade of seniors graduating, or to be present on your high school ministry, or to at least have your interns present in your high school ministry. So these seniors who were graduating, they weren't sure that they were called to ministry, but they said, I love Jesus, and I trust you, and I want to get my AA. So I'm going to let you disciple me for 2 years, get this AA out of the way, and then I'm going to go be whatever God's calling me to be. And so that, in my mind, was an incredible way where, although we didn't think we were going to get our next youth pastor or children's pastor out of this, we were able to invest in the next generation in a kingdom mindset. Because I also think of it as every kid who's going to our program, even if you think ministry outside of it, just a kid is going to a Christian university. I remember my first year of going to a junior college, straight out of high school. So I was 18 years old, and I sat in Philosophy 101. And I think week 3 of Philosophy 101, I walked outside the classroom, and I called my youth pastor, and I said, I have no idea what I believe right now. Like, I don't know if I'm a Christian right now. And I grew up in church, and I was in my intern program currently, going through the junior college. And because I had a good youth pastor, he walked me through that. But a lot of our kids going into these state schools or junior college, they don't have that. So even just by offering the kid who's not called to ministry, if this suits your program, a way to go to a Christian college and get the discipleship in your program, like that, to me, that's a huge win, that we save them from that humanistic garbage that's part of the junior college. And, you know, all said and done, I think the Lord used that phase in my life. But for us now, we get to bring these kids into our program, and I think that's a huge way to invest into the kids in your church and into our kingdom. The second way we look to invest into our students is by protecting their schedule. The internship I was a part of made me who I am today because of it, but we worked 40 hours a week, went to a full-time junior college schedule, and it was 11 months out of the year with 1 month off for 2 full years, and we got paid $200 a month or something like that. Like that was crazy. That was really hard. And I'm grateful for it, but at the same time, in how we run our internship now, I want to make sure that me as a director or coordinator, I protect their schedule, because you know how scheduling creep can just fall into the church calendar, and the children's pastor or youth or worship says, oh, I need help with this, and you have 3 interns, can you help me set this up? And interrupting a class or interrupting devotion time. So we invested in them by helping them plan, this is your work day, this is your study hall day, these are your day offs. And so we schedule in our internship, our schedule looks like this. It's about 20 hours a week of service time. Now, to get the practicum requirement through the school, they have to serve about 4 to 10. We felt like about 20 hours was the right amount for them to get real ministry experience, where when they graduated after 2 years, they were ready for their first job, right? Or they were ready for their part-time youth pastor after 2 years. So, how we justified scheduling them more, because the practicum only justifies 4 to 10 hours, is we actually pay them, and I'll get into that, how we use the site fee. We dedicate some of the site fee back towards them in a monthly allowance. But this is our schedule, so it looks like Monday and Thursday are the basically study hall days, although some of the study hall gets eaten up by the leadership lesson that the church will do, or some of the personal prep time that we'll schedule for them, or personal development time that we'll schedule for them, like bringing in a counselor or a marriage expert or something like that. And then Tuesday, Wednesdays from 9 to 5 are the ministry hours, where they are serving alongside the youth pastor or alongside the worship and productions pastor. And then the evenings depend on which ministry track they're in. Worship practice if they're in the worship track, Wednesday night if they're on the youth track, and so forth. So Tuesday, Wednesday all day, Monday, Thursday study hall, and then Friday, depending on their track, could be a community service volunteer type hours, and then Sunday, obviously, you got to work Sunday, so that's 8 to 1. It is a little bit more than 20 hours, because my philosophy is, when I was a youth pastor, if I work for 40 hours and then go to youth ministry, like I didn't count youth ministry hours as my own personal hours, because I'm asking all these volunteers and adults who are working full-time jobs, have more kids than me, have more busier schedules than me, for them to volunteer, then that needs to be volunteer time for me too. So I modeled that in my youth pastoring schedule, so we modeled that Wednesday night actually is their voluntold time, and I felt like that helped develop the heart of the pastor in them. So that's our schedule. So look to invest, bring in the maybe kids, protect the schedules, protect their hours, use the site fee on them. One of the reasons why our program is so valuable, I think, because it's more than it just being $9,700 a year. It's actually a lot less than that, because we use so much of the site fee on them. This is just an example of a pie chart I saved from how we were spending it a couple years ago. 31% would go to intern stipends. So the first year interns, we would paid them $50 a month. And the big reason we did this was so they would not have the excuse of, I don't have gas money, I can't go to this event because, I can't pay for it. So $50 a month, you got gas money because we pay you, all right? It's not very much. But second year interns, $100 a month. Third years, if they stick around, we either hopefully have a staff position for them as some sort of part-time campus youth pastor or something. But, hopefully by the time they've been around for 2+ years that they're ready to be either sent or do something on our campus. So intern stipend, intern professional, this is what we dedicate towards our taking them out to coffees or lunches or dinners, intern trips, leadership conferences. I know one ministry in Destiny in Rockland, what they do is they save a bigger portion, $1,000 a year from each intern, and then after they go through 2 years, they have $2,000 to take that intern on a mission trip or to visit Israel for free. And so that's been a really exciting thing for them. Intern Christmas bonus, just a way to bless them. Future internship fund, that's been what we kind of like set aside for when there's either a problem or somebody that we want to really invest into. We had one kid who was going to be a super great fit, but he just couldn't justify it because of the money, and he was going to get a little scholarship at the state school. And we said, we'll scholarship you $1,000 a semester. And in reality, that's less than the site fee he paid, but like you should have seen him light up thinking or knowing that the church is wanting to invest $2,000 in him, and he ended up doing a program being a great fit. So we portion a part of all of our intern site fees towards scholarships. We had another intern who was trying to do all of his work on the youth computer, like the presentation computer, all his homework and everything, and in between hours, and he was doing horribly in school. So we just bought him a $300 Chromebook, and he was actually able to do homework at home now and be successful. So that was helpful. And then lastly, compensation for director. At the time, the church gave that to me as an incentive for growing the program, and I was a full-time youth pastor who inherited an internship, so that just kind of was a nice blessing that they gave. So that's one way to use the site fee, and obviously you have sovereignty over that to use it however you want. The last way you can look to invest, and I think right here, if everybody in this room did this, like literally this could be even the size of 5 people, this could be tens of thousands of dollars over the course of the next coming years. Fundraise for them, and there's 3 ways I would recommend you fundraise. Just a very simple 3-part fundraising plan. I'm not about, even when I was youth pastor, I'm not about car washes or Safeway cards you get 1% when you go to Mountain Mike's Pizza or whatever. Like I'm not about that. The best way I ever raised money was just asking people for money. Like that. That is the best way to do it. And so this 3-part fundraising plan, and all of these slides will be uploaded on the website later. But the first thing is pursue designated givers. You know, or your senior pastor knows, who are the people that God has blessed with wealth in your church. And then on top of that, you know people who very much value ministerial training, and you know people who very much value higher education, teachers in your congregation, professors in your congregation, people with masters or doctorates in your congregation who say this is valuable and I want to make sure the next congregation gets it. And they might be able to donate $1,000 a year as part of the next or the flex scholarship or whatever you want to call it. And so with just probably 10 phone calls, you could probably raise a healthy amount of scholarship for you to use however you want. You could say, okay, I'm going to use this for when my kid graduates, and then I'm going to surprise them. I'm going to pay off the rest of their student loan when they graduate. I mean, that, in my mind, would be the ultimate goal. Every kid who graduates, I finish their student loan debt so they can go into ministry into the villages in Alaska or wherever. Like, that would be the dream. Once a year church offering. Would encourage you to talk to your senior pastor to cast a vision on one Sunday of the year and cast the need of this is what we're doing to raise up the next generation and show exactly how you're going to use it. And the third way is something that very few churches do, and it's like a game changer. It's called planned giving, where people basically have these banquets to seniors and talk to them about how to write a will and how to write institutions into their will. And Northwest University has a person whose entire job is doing these planned giving events. And he actually resides in California, but he travels around doing it. And so he would come, I had lunch with him, and he walked me through the process, and after like an hour and a half, I still like have trouble explaining it and grasping it because it's complex, and he will help you make sure your people give in the best way possible. One of the things he said was, if they have a nest egg, like $100,000 that they die with, it's better to give that and leave it to the church. But if they have an estate because of certain tax whatever, it's better to give it to an academic institution because it's hit a lot less with taxes. For all these reasons that I couldn't follow. So he's the guy to call and bring it in. And here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to tell your senior pastor, hey, we're doing a planned giving banquet and all the money's going to go to Northwest University Church Partnership Program at our church. Because obviously a lot of these people are the church's people that have lived in and loved this congregation. So the planned giving banquet will probably be your church's planned giving banquet, talking about how to leave a money or a blessing in their estate as they pass away to the church, with maybe then a portion of it going to your academic school at your program. And I've talked to Northwest University, and if like a sizable donation came in through this, your church could handle it and dog ear it for whatever you want, or you could have Northwest University handle it. Say it's like if you get $100,000 donated, my church is not used to handling that type of money in a one-time giving scholarship. And so I would recommend you let Northwest University handle it, and then they'll keep it and let it build interest and give you the whatever every single year, the endowment every single year. And they can make sure they dog ear it just exactly for year one church partnership program. So that's a great idea, and I'd love to see church partnership. We've got 70 church partnership programs. If each of us did a planned giving banquet, like that's going to be a lot of potential for the next generation. So invest in your people. The second way we added value to our program is to look to coach, not to manage. When I think of coaching, the name that comes to me is Jamarcus Russell. If you're an NFL fan, Jamarcus Russell was the first draft pick of the 2007 NFL season. Scouts predicted he would be the Shaquille O'Neal of the NFL. And even though Russell seemed as the golden goose, one scouting specialist pointed out that Jamarcus Russell will need more than a $60 million contract to become a great player. You can't just throw $60 million at someone and say, okay, now go win some games and get in the Hall of Fame. Russell would need a solid coach with a routine training for the next 3 years. Then after this experience, he would, under the direction of his coaches, be able to have some freedom to move from that training regimen. Because at the end of the day, Jamarcus Russell is just like all of us. You can't just throw $60 million at someone and say, okay, become an all-star now. We got this great church partnership program. You got this great internship thing designed to give your kids, but we still can't just throw a fancy program at kids and expect them to pop out on the other side as, you know, the next AG minister ready to go. All of our kids need that individual coaching from shepherds, from people who love them, not just people who are saying, what task are you doing here and there, who are actually coaching them through these parts of their life. So we programmed into our program 3 different ways where we had made sure that they were having effective coaching in their lives. The first one was weekly check-ins with the main leader. Whoever their primary contact was with youth ministry or worship, that they needed to have some sort of weekly check-in of, hey, this is everything that's going on in ministry, but also, it doesn't have to get all deep every time, but also, how are you doing? Are you doing all right? And having that one main connection with that one main leader on a weekly, if not at least bi-weekly routine makes a huge difference for these kids who are really wanting to be spiritually fathered or spiritually mothered and raised up as the next generation. So I encourage you to make sure somehow that you have a weekly check-in. And by the time we had 7 interns, and I was trying to do 30-minute check-ins with each of these interns, it became a lot. So that's when we tried to start filtering it out to either ministry leaders or ministry supervisors, so it wasn't all just the one coordinator, or also bringing in spiritually mature Christians who might just come into the office and say, I'm just going to be the life person for you. Tell me what's going on in your life. And so that way, as the program grows, you're not giving an entire day for check-ins, because we all got other stuff going on, but they still get the weekly check-ins. So weekly check-ins with, I shouldn't say main leader, I should say one main person, who's the same person every week, whoever that is. Bi-weekly peer accountability. This helped a lot when our program grew too much and we couldn't do the weekly check-ins. On the off weeks, we would say, okay, we'll meet with each other, and I'm going to schedule an hour for you, and here's your list of questions. Number one, do you like the type of person you're becoming? Number two, have you felt like you've been an integrist in any way in the last week, or whatever? You get those accountability questions, and that helped them a lot grow in their spiritual growth together and bonding as a team. But I would recommend providing them with some questions, so it's not just like goof off time in the peer accountability. And lastly, monthly mentor meetings. So in these weekly check-ins, I would say, okay, what are your goals? What are you trying to become? Who's God calling you to be? All that stuff. And depending on what they said or what they wanted to grow in, we would identify who's somebody that you could ask to coffee or lunch and try and get invested into from in the next month, whether it's the senior pastor of our church or the church down the road or whatever. And so I would encourage them to identify these leaders on their own to pursue that growth on their own. And I think that's a skill. Hopefully they'll continue even after the internship of pursuing these leaders outside of their regular ministry supervisors on their own. The third thing we did to bring value to our program, the third way I looked at framing my internship is I looked at the whole person, not just their role with me. So I'm sure, you might have seen different life wheels like this. This one's got 8 different categories in your life, and you can kind of like number it 0 to 10, like how are you doing in the wealth finance area of your life, 0 being the center and 10 being the outside. So this example, the person would be doing great in community, but awful with money, and okay in love and relationships. And so we look at a wheel like this, and you can just Google it. There's tons of these. The one I uses 7, but whatever. And you can look at this and say, how am I adding value? How am I growing and training and mentoring and shepherding and fathering my interns in each of these different areas of life? And so one of the ways I do that is by taking them through the training, the teaching of there's 7 different areas of your life, and how are you growing in each of those areas. And so some of the things we added, considering we want to, thinking with the end in mind, what do we want them to look like when they graduate? I want them to be good with money. I want them to be, know how to treat their boyfriend or girlfriend or be a good husband or wife. We would try and train in these different areas of life. So we took them all through Financial Peace University. We used some of the site feet for that. Pretty much everyone who goes through Financial Peace University sits there angry that they didn't learn this when they were 18 or 19 years old, right? And here we are, and we have a group of 18 and 19-year-olds. Let's give them this tool and bless them that way. And if you call their office, they'll give you a special church intern rate for it too. For some of our weeks, we would do, it's broken up into 7-week sessions, so we would do fitness classes together for 7 of the weeks to model like we want to be healthy physically, because that's going to help every other area of our life. So we would work out together sometimes. Organizing study hall time, making sure they're successful just in academics. We had a couple interns who failed a couple classes, and they said, "Oh, it's no big deal. I'll just retake it over the summer." And I said, "No. The academic is part of the internship. Like you have to be successful in that too, as part of this program and the life balance." And so you need to consider them being successful in school and making sure they get all their stuff in on time as part of and as real life as all the other ministry things they got going on. So part of our schedule you already saw, Monday and Thursday, 9 to 12 is study hall time. We would exempt that for people who are getting straight A's. If you got straight A's, you could choose not to go. Most people choose to go. Sometimes it's really productive for them. And they're really cracking down so people get all their work done in those 6 hours, and they really take it seriously. And other people, it's a little bit of goof off time, so you can manage that how you want. Bringing in a counselor. This is a cool thing that we've been looking at doing. You might have a professional counselor or family and marriage therapist in your congregation, and just to have some one-on-one meetings with some of your interns and say, how are you doing? And then at the end, give them a report to you of, in general, how are my interns and what can I do to support them, obviously without giving you specifics. And so this is something that even CEOs do with their staff to bring in free counseling. And I bet your marriage and family therapist would love to bless and honor your church and your interns like that. And then connecting them with the appropriate experts for people that you have not wanting to major in ministry, whether it's psychology or business, helping them get connected with and hear from business leaders in their area. I want to help them grow in that as well. The fourth area we look at our program is we're looking to send, not to keep. And I mentioned we've had some third or fourth year interns who have stuck around and they've been great fits. And after a couple years, they really have the DNA of your church, so it's easy to keep them around. But one of our success markers is how many people are we launching into ministry and being able to send out. And so all that we do is hopefully enabling them to be able to be hired at a church or to be able to be successful as their bivocational youth pastor or senior pastor or whatever. Some people get nervous, and I have been talking to the crowd that I think you guys get it because you've heard the heart of the president because you're doing the church partnership program. I think you get that you want to send. But my favorite just one-line zinger when it comes to this is sometimes people say, what if I train them? What if I train these people up and they go? But then the response to that is, what if I don't train them and they stay, right? What if I don't train them and they stay? And so we need to be people with the kingdom mindset, ready to send people out, and just with our own hearts towards God. I want to be open-handed and say, God's given me all these leaders, and if God calls them to leave, I don't want to get defensive or protective over that. I want to say, okay, God, you sent it to me. I'm going to let them go too. So be open-minded and open-hearted and send your people out. The fifth thing is we look at this as a community, not just a program. We are the church partnership program. We have the One Church School of Ministry and Leadership, but I try and develop this as a community of young people going together as a cohort, as kind of a family traveling on a journey together, not just people coming and checking into a program. And if you think of all the college marketing that you see out there, it's all of these young, beautiful people on the covers having a great time with their arm around each other, studying on the grass, and it looks great. Even the Northwest University promo stuff is people around a campfire on the beach. I'm like, when does that happen at Northwest University? But they're using that to promote it, and because they're promoting the feel of community and camaraderie and all that. And so that is something, it's marketing, and they do that because it works. That's something that people want. And I think sometimes our kids maybe don't want to just stay around at church and do the church thing or do the JC because it doesn't have that idea of them going away to college and getting that camaraderie of the fraternity or whatever. And so I want to make sure I'm providing them with because they don't get the feel of the Kirkland campus, I want to make sure I'm providing them with some sort of community and camaraderie of them going together on a journey. And so some of the things we do to build community into our program is first of all, just meals. That's just biblical fellowship right there, that we plan and structure meals. Me with them, the director, the coordinator with them, the ministry supervisor with them. We schedule and make sure that as part of our site feed, we say the senior pastor, we're inviting him to a lunch, and once a semester they all have a big lunch at Cheesecake Factory with the senior pastor, and they just get to have that fellowship time with him. Or even just weekly here and there, making sure that they are on meals. And when I was an intern, I always joked the best part of the intern program was free meals, right? And so let's buy meals for our interns. Spiritual growth. Every Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 9 o'clock, they're doing devotions together. And so every now and then I'll post a picture on Instagram or Facebook of these young people just growing together in the Lord. And here I am, I'm 27 years old, I got a wife and 2 kids, and I look at them and say, you got a group of really solid friends that you get to do devotions with 4 times a week. That's awesome. That's amazing. I don't have that in my own life, and a little part of me is envious of that they get that. And so that's a wonderful thing. So please schedule into your program that they have group devotion times, whether they're just reading on their own or once a week they're teaching each other. Because that is a great way to grow people in community. Intern retreat, as the year kicks off, maybe right before the school year, for returning interns, I would recommend doing it to kick off the year because you just like hyper jump, like so much camaraderie building. You get 150 hours together, and normally it would take 10 weeks of hours worth of serving together to get that much time. But you do an event where you're living together, and you just really you skip a couple steps in building relationships. So if you're able to build that into your site fee, whether it's a camping trip or leadership or somehow do some sort of intern retreat together. Leadership conference, as far as fellowship, obviously an intern retreat is better because it's not going to be jam-packed with all just an overwhelming amount of learning and knowledge. But leadership conference is a great way to do that as well. Special meals and memories, we take them to a nice Christmas banquet, and when they end their semester and finish the year, we do a nice dinner for them as well. And I'm just all about like making memories. When I was a youth pastor, I loved the idea of like when you're half a mile outside of camp, like pretend that the bus broke down and make all the kids carry their luggage into camp, because everyone will be talking about that, and then once they get out, the bus passes them on the way or whatever. That's just making a memory. And so I like to do things that build the memories into my interning kids and then post them on Instagram. Peer leadership. Okay, so part of our intern structure is that our interns have to read one book, 2 books a semester, so 1 book a session. So either me, the coordinator, will choose it, or the ministry supervisor will choose a book for them to read. And then part of our leadership, weekly leadership time, that I would normally come with a leadership lesson, or I'd have one of the staff give a leadership lesson. On one of the weeks, we say, okay, the book that you read, that you were assigned, and I like to assign them different books so I can do this. The book that you were assigned, now you have to do a 10-minute lesson on that book. And so they're getting experience teaching a lesson, which I gotta try and provide more and more and more, because there's only so much pulpit you can share. I'm having them then not just read and okay, check off I read the book, but read it in a way so I can be able to teach it, and that makes you really learn it. Yeah. And then everybody else gets to sit in and learn from the book that they read, so everyone's learning from each other. And so that's been one of from my perspective, looked like it really enhanced our book reading as an intern program to make them teach a leadership lesson off of those books that they had to read. So peer leadership is a great way to build community as well. And then lastly, look for city, not just church. There is only so much you can actually do in your church walls, and there's a type of ministry that it just can't be done within your church. And there's some growth that you can't offer them inside your church. And if they're spending 95% of their ministry hours within the church walls, they're just missing out on a type of growth that could happen. And I could communicate this on my own, but I think I'm going to show you a 1.5-minute video of Pastor Chalko de Jesus, who's on the cover of Time magazine, and he's just killing it in Chicago. So just take a look at this video to let him show you what the heart of the pastor, how the heart of the pastor can grow from community ministry.
Daughter church you guys are going to meet, John Hanna, same thing with him. He was with me for many years. Told him, I think God can do great things in your life.
And he looked at me and said, I see what's in you. I want to build on it, and I want to plant.
Taught him how to have the heartbeat of God for the poor. And I did that by, when you see him, to ask him about that.
I remember when he said, I got an assignment for you. Every Thursday, I want you to come to this shelter, and I want you to feed these men, and I want you to give them a 7-minute devotion. So every Thursday, I would have to leave the south side of Chicago, drive all the way to the north side at night, get to a shelter at 9 o'clock at night, feed men, and then open the Bible and give them a devotion. So this was a part that was breaking me. And Pastor Chalko used to say something very key to me. He would say, I'm only going to plant you when you get a pastor's heart.
I wanted him to make sure he had the heartbeat of God. And that's what he did.
And then I started my Bible study.
Something about community ministry and ministering to those with the greatest need and having the most desperation, that builds the heartbeat of God. And so what we did in when I was coordinating the program, and since then I've resigned, and right now I'm just doing a lot of adjunct, so I keep saying me as a coordinator, although Caleb and Michelle Crenshaw are doing the program now and killing it. We had them go to the gospel mission on Friday nights, and there was a homeless youth outreach there on Friday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And they would go and hang out with kids for about an hour and a half, eat with them for the late night meal that they provided, and then do about a 10-minute devotion. And they dreaded it sometimes because it's their Friday night at 9 to 11 p.m. But I felt like that was what grew. It wasn't about the youth convention numbers. It wasn't about how many kids you're going to get there on Wednesday night. It wasn't about, whatever on your own campus. None of those kids ever came to our church. It was just about loving on those kids who had great need, and that grew something in their heart. And so I really, really would encourage you to think about your city, not just your church. And so the 6 frames to capture your internship: look to invest, to coach, look at the whole person, look to send, look for community, and look for city. So thanks for letting me share. We have 5 minutes left till we need to be dismissed. So if you guys have any thoughts, comments, questions, or pushback, we could do that for 5 minutes. So go ahead.
I just have a question on, so half of our people that are signed up are not in that 18 to 24 range.
They're adult learners.
They're adult learners.
Okay.
And so have you guys experienced that at the internship, or did you try to just kind of stay away from that? Because we're trying to figure out, I love the schedule. That's how our summer internships look.
Right.
But I'm looking at doing an internship during the school year where I have a mom with 3 kids married and is also working part-time on the side. And I'm like,
Okay.
how do I create
Great
something
question.
that it's,
So is she wanting to get the practicum credit?
yeah.
Okay, so here's a couple ways to do it. One is she could just not have, like you have the regular intern program and then you have an adult learner. And between you and her and whoever the direct ministry supervisor is, on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis, are they serving in a 4 to 10 hour week a basis at your church? And if you can justify that and in your syllabus you've made those learning outcomes, then totally, I would love to award practicum credit for somebody like that who's probably working way harder and way busier than the 19-year-old. So you could definitely do it like that. You would run into a little bit of maybe issue with the 19-year-old who says, well, how come I have to be here all this time and she's 19-year-old, or she's only here 4 to 10 hours and doing this other stuff. So you'll have to navigate that as a leader. They may or may not know, and you can just say, we have a special arrangement, and you could watch her kids maybe, so she could be in, or
There you go.
or she could just not get the practice credit.
Right.
Like that's an option. So.
Yeah, that's the way we did it. So I had a single mom who was been a hairstylist for 20 years, wanted to go back to school, and so she was working, had kids and whatever. So I just paired her up with our women's ministries director, and she had objectives that she had to accomplish partnering with women's ministry, and they just took care of it. I mean, I hardly, I've been signing off on her getting the practice grade, checking in with the women's ministry director. She led a table, sponsored other and did a couple other things with the women's ministry.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking.
And I would come up with a different name for them. Don't. I want to call
Were you the
her.
one that was talking about the flex?
I used that word here, but Kerry was talking about flex yesterday, and he knows more about that. Yeah. But I would not call them like your regular school ministry intern. Maybe call them a flex intern, or just call them an associate or apprentice or something.
Okay.
That might help the distinction. So, cool.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.